The Lincoln Project. They're the anti-Trump crusaders. Steve Schmidt is part of that group. You'll see him almost daily on Morning Joe talking about how terrible Donald Trump is. Other members of the group include Rick Wilson and some other stars, some other Republicans. I'm using air quotes there. So I wanted to talk to someone who's breaking this down and knows all about it. And I decided to have on Brad Slager. He's from RedState Town Hall. You can find him on Twitter at Martini Shark. Brad, thank you for being with us.
And how are we doing? Great. Thanks for having me on.
I'm good, Brad. Brad, so tell us, first of all, what this Lincoln Project story is about. I know a lot of people probably saw it on Twitter. John Weaver had some strange direct messages, but really break this down for people from the beginning.
Oh, well, John Weaver is a long-time GOP operative. I mean, he actually comes out of the George Bush years, but has pretty much been operating more in the rhino vein of things in the last decade, I'll say, and really has fallen in with, like you described, all the other individuals at the Lincoln Project who are just hardcore anti-Trump. And actually, it goes back over a year ago. He started to become kind of a lightning rod for them. It began last summer, really, when they were really in the midst of the whole anti-Russia collusion scandal. They were really pushing that hard. They were really demonizing any connection whatsoever with Russia. And then it got discovered rather quietly that he had submitted the paperwork to be cleared to become a lobbyist on behalf of Russian interests at the same time. So this didn't really sit well. He had to kind of pull out of that, and the Lincoln Project at the time were pretty much being ridiculed as hypocrites.
Right.
And basically last week, a story started to break out that John Weaver was engaged in some really predatory behavior online towards male suitors. Now, that in and of itself may not be a big story, but him being married, he has children, that was an issue. But the biggest one was really that it grew into a story where he was grooming young men for sexual conquest, and he was dangling a lot of professional work in exchange for sexual favors.
And I think that what happened was one person, which is a trend I see a lot now online, one person comes out and says, this happened to me. We saw this with the Me Too movement, but one person comes out on the record and says, I've had this experience with this person. And all of a sudden that person gets flooded with DMs from other people who say, oh, this also happened to me, and here's a screenshot of it. And that's what happened to John Weaver. I think it was one reporter who came out and mentioned this, and then all of a sudden he had all of this corroborating evidence from other people.
Yeah, pretty much that's the way it worked. He had described some, kind of uncomfortable conversations, I guess you could say, that he had been having with Weaver. Then more and more coming forward, but it was a little different. It wasn't so much, like in Me Too, we saw like anonymous people would come out and say, 5 years ago he did this or such. It really seemed to be a pattern with Weaver that he would start approaching them online, but then also using the lure of some political influence. I could get you a job here. I could place you in this office. And many of the people coming forward, while they may not be blue checkmark famous political players, they are still established names that you can verify. It wasn't this anonymous name in the ether. These are people that are actually working in various places saying, wait a second, that happened to me too. Yes, he came to me as well with these kinds of offers. And it just steamrolled from there in a matter of days.
Right. And Brad, this is where it gets really, really interesting, because you started looking on Twitter and you were trying to follow the story as one does. You started, entering the Lincoln Project into the search bar, and you started to notice a kind of shadow ban effect that happened on Twitter. Can you explain that to people and the big tech manipulation of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've covered a lot of the Lincoln Project over the last year or two regarding their financials, for instance, and how they operate. So I'm already familiar with them as a group and how to get their information and, what to look for. And it wasn't just myself. I mean, a number of other reporters were saying, hey, wait a second, did you notice this? And, you could put in the simple search. It would be, find Lincoln Project and then put in a phrase or such, and it would return nothing. And then it was so bad that you would even just do a search for at Project Lincoln, which is their handle. That wasn't even generating returns. So it was almost like a complete veil was thrown over their account to prevent any kind of activity. Now, the account wasn't taken down. They were not suspended. You could still type in the address in the basic window and come up with it. But for some reason, Twitter was banning any kind of search function regarding them for a couple of days. Now, when they got approached by it, I think it was Daily Caller that finally went to Twitter and said, what gives? They had a real mealy-mouthed explanation. Oh, there's some sort of bug in our system.
The old glitch in the system, the old bug in the system. You don't hear that every day. Brad, the other part of this that I find interesting is that Steve Schmidt and people from the Lincoln Project, they do not mince words. If they have a problem with someone, and you mentioned this in your column, they fully, ask companies to boycott people, ask companies to fire employees. They don't hold back at all. But I haven't heard a peep from Steve Schmidt about John Weaver.
No, not at all. And he and Rick Wilson are both kind of the pit bulls of this operation, where if there's anything controversial, anything of note that they can hang on negatively, they'll jump at that and go for the throat. And yet the very thing that they attack people over is taking place under their roof. Not only did they not say anything about it, when the story broke, they were first silent about it. Then John Weaver suddenly had his details completely erased from their website. He suddenly wasn't a member. His bio was completely gone. And people thought, oh, this is a bad sign. And sure enough, I think it got over a dozen people coming forward with Weaver's story, led to him finally making an admission.
Yeah,
issuing a statement and acknowledging he was doing this. So all this time, the Lincoln Project had to have been aware of his activity, because this was not isolated to a month ago. He's been doing this for a long time, and seemingly with their permission.
This was the statement released by John Weaver. He said, "To the men I made uncomfortable through my messages that I viewed as consensual, mutual conversations at the time, I am truly sorry. They were inappropriate, and it was because of my failings that this discomfort was brought on you. The truth is that I'm gay and that I have a wife and 2 kids who I love. My inability to reconcile those 2 truths has led to this agonizing place." That was his statement. What do you think about that, Brad? In and of itself, sure, I can harbor a little bit of sympathy, but really the problem here was the way he was operating professionally. It's not a controversial issue that he was gay. Even if he was cheating on his wife, that's a personal matter. But when he's involving his workspace, when he's either promising work or using that lure of work for his sexual gain, that's the very thing we've been lectured to for years, is at the root of the Me Too movement. You don't leverage your professional power for sexual favors or other personal gains. So that's specifically where the problem rested. And for Lincoln Project to approve of this or overlook it or ignore it pretty much cuts to the base of the problem. Yeah, and like you say, it becomes very revealing about the character of its membership. The Lincoln Project has several people who have shady pasts, not just John Weaver, but a lot of the other members. Brad Slager from RedState and Town Hall, thank you so much for being with us. You can find Brad at Martini Shark on Twitter. He's awesome. He writes a lot about cancel culture and a lot about politics, but also just culture in general. So make sure you check him out. Guys, when we get back on the other side, we have Howard Lawrence Carr joining us, and he's got a jam-packed show today. We're going to talk all about it. It's true what they say at Perfect Smiles. Change your smile, change your life. I saw the change with Howie and with the mailroom manager. Many people walk around not smiling because they aren't happy with their teeth. I used to be like this for a while. You're insecure about your smile. It's not good. It inhibits you. It makes you feel less confident. You don't shine when your smile is not where it should be. And the best part about that, though, is that you can get it fixed. It really is amazing. Don't take my word for it. Watch the incredible testimonials at perfectsmiles.com. They have all the videos there, and you can see some of these incredible transformations. Dr. Houghton really is an artist, and almost just as important, he's incredibly nice and incredibly kind. He's going to treat you like a VIP. He's going to make you feel comfortable and relaxed, and you're not going to be nervous. I know a lot of people get nervous at the dentist. Perfect Smiles is conveniently located in Nashua, New Hampshire. Parking is free, and the staff is warm and welcoming. That is so true. Have you been wanting to upgrade your look for years? Don't wait any longer. The time is now. Contact them today and look at their video testimonials. Go to perfectsmiles.com. That's perfectsmiles.com. Change your smile, change your life. We'll be back on the other side with Howard Lawrence Carr. Don't go anywhere. This is The Grace Curley Show.
The Grace Curley Show will be right back.